Mediatonic's Fall Guys brings us a really refreshing battle royale game that puts you in a Wipeout type game show where you must go through various rounds of platforming and puzzle solving until you are the last one standing. But why am I describing the game to you when chances are you already know of this game? Upon release, Fall Guys dominated the charts. It was the highest viewed game on Twitch and YouTube and was among the best selling games on PC and PS4. These days, the player numbers have dropped and people are decrying the end of Fall Guys. The official Twitter account can't post their unfunny memes without being bombarded by Twitter clowns these days. However, it's honestly hard to outright disprove what's being said because if you take a look at the Steam charts, the level of decline that Fall Guys is experiencing is extremely concerning. So what caused the meteoric rise and equally meteoric decline of Fall Guys? Let's take a deeper look and find out. When talking about what made an entity fall from grace, one must first analyze what caused its rise in popularity. Fall Guys was released on August 4th of 2020 on PC and PS4 to a really large player base compared to what the team of Mediatonic were probably expecting. For the first week there was several connection issues, but it didn't seem to faze people because the game was so fun. It was an incredibly refreshing entry in a genre that was starting to become stale and oversaturated. Fall Guys also had a really low barrier to entry, meaning that anyone could just pick it up and play it. For as much as it's memed on, the building mechanic in Fortnite is in itself a barrier to entry, and for someone like myself, it's the biggest reason why I never wanted to pick it up. However, Fall Guys' only learning curve is when to press A correctly. So it was immediately attractive to anyone who watched an episode of Wipeout and wondered why that was never made into a video game. Additionally, the last player standing angle of battle royales attracted fans and major streamers of the genre, and that's the angle I want to attack first. Popular streamers such as XQC, Tim the Tatman, or Summit1G have the potential to make or break a game. If they choose to stream a game and continue to bring attention to it if they're enjoying it, that's more publicity than millions of dollars of advertising can get you. This game caught on with all the popular streamers, so it's really no surprise that sales exploded when it got this additional attention. Because of this, Fall Guys soared to over 100,000 players online for the entire month of August. That means that for the month of August, there was over 100,000 players online every single day. August was Fall Guys month. There were tons of memes, videos, streams, and one of the biggest moments on Twitch that month was Tim the Tatman getting his first win, which peaked at 342,000 viewers on Twitch. It's safe to say that Fall Guys dominated all of August, which led to incredible sales and player base. Obviously, the game wasn't perfect. I mean, it was buggy, had major latency issues, cheaters were a huge issue on PC, people's usernames weren't displayed on screen, and there were some game modes and maps that were absolute trash. However, none of that seemed to matter as Mediatonic and Devolver Digital had won the adoration of thousands of people. They were seen as this small, well-meaning developer that had an unexpected monster hit. They did a great job interacting with fans on Twitter and Reddit, which gave them confidence that any and all issues would be resolved in a timely manner. So before we go into the fall of Fall Guys, I want to take a look at the much more popular games that have stood the test of time: Fortnite and League of Legends. These games, believe it or not, all have a very similar gimmick. There are these limited time events that introduce certain game mechanics that normally don't last long. They're known as seasons, and every time a new one is announced, it's a profoundly exciting time because you're basically getting a brand new game. If you've put down the game and you're taking a break for a couple months, this is the best time to come back. Fortnite and League of Legends change the maps, weapons, mechanics just enough to keep the game fresh, but not so it loses its original identity, and this is essential for popular online video games to do the same, or they risk going stagnant. Fall Guys had the right idea when they announced Season 2 back in October, which promised stability, new maps, and really neat new costumes. There was a fair amount of hype for this season as people were already getting tired of the 25 game modes and maps that Season 1 had to offer, but they were eager to play a brand new roster of maps that just elevated the already great idea. Oh, there's only 4 new maps.
No, this doesn't look like a new map to me. No, this is just Dizzy Heights.
2 months. They had 2 months to develop new maps and other game modes, and all they did was add 4 new maps in this latest season. That's not enough. That's not enough.
Now come on, you have a new season. You want to give me new content. But you're gonna give me fall ball. You're gonna give me fall ball.
Oh wait, it looks like you have to throw it in something's mouth.
Oh, I think they changed.
Oh,
Ooh.
wait.
No way, it's the same
No.
thing. What the heck, dude? They baited
What
me.
is it?
They baited both of us.
That they mixed in all of the season 2 maps with all the season 1 maps, so you generally get more of the season 1 than the season 2 maps anyways, and it's just luck of the draw to get the new content. They could have at least made a playlist of all of the new stuff from season 2, but again, they didn't make enough content. So that's probably why they didn't make that playlist in the first place.
But the key, as we saw with a successful game like Fortnite, is constant updates and good updates. And 2 months for this. We did a total recording session of 2 hours, and we got 3 new maps. And we actually only got to see 2 of them.
4 new maps after 2 months of little to no content was incredibly frustrating for people rooting for this game. For comparison's sake, a game like League of Legends updates every 2 weeks, and that's with balance changes and new characters, items, and things like that. That's how they keep the game fresh. On top of that, cheaters were still running rampant while Mediatonic was seemingly refusing to do anything about them. They were relying on a really faulty anti-cheat that just wasn't working. Their hard-headedness on this issue and the lack of maps and content led to over half of the player base leaving by September. And by the time Season 2 came out, the game was at around 48,000 players, which most games would kill for this player base, but it's pretty abysmal compared to how Fall Guys started out. Nowadays, the player base on Steam struggles to break past 20,000, and many people are officially putting the nail in the bean-shaped coffin and declaring Fall Guys dead. But is that an entirely fair assessment? I think the more nuanced answer would be that Fall Guys was a victim of the massive hype machine. I think the player base it has currently was what the devs maybe anticipated upon release and were prepared for some exposure, but not at the level that it actually happened. There's almost no way to tell if an indie game is going to be a monstrous hit, and when Fall Guys took off, there was no immediate plan to capitalize on the hype the game was receiving. Thus, it led to gaps in content releases and not nearly enough new things to keep most fans interested. However, I ultimately believe that this spike in popularity caused the game to peak as soon as it was released, which is why people think it's such a dead game now. When a game peaks in popularity, it basically means that this is as popular as the game is ever going to get, and it's all about stopping the bleeding from here on out. For example, Fortnite peaked a year after its release, and people argue that League of Legends peaked back in 2014. World of Warcraft peaked when The Wrath of the Lich King came out, so on and so forth. It is a very normal thing in online video games. Peaking in the player base for most games takes time, and after that is reached, you have people coming out of the woodwork screaming that the game is dead and no one is playing it anymore. Your game peaking and people telling you that your game is dead are hand in hand. They just go together. With Fall Guys, it just happened to come the same month that it was released. Granted, the drop-off that this game is experiencing is monumental, and if Mediatonic don't actually fix this game's problems, then yes, there's a very good chance that the bleeding will continue and the number of active players will continue to plummet. But for now, I really think that Fall Guys peaked immediately, and the number we're seeing currently was the player base the game was probably expected to have upon release. I'm not trying to chalk the massive drop-off for this game to bad luck. There was a lot that Mediatonic should have done to keep this game's momentum going, but it certainly didn't help that Twitch and the general public had already moved on to another sleeper hit, which seemingly came from nowhere. Among Us was a game that had really humble beginnings upon its release. It had less than 1,000 players for the first 2 years it was out, but during those 2 years, the developers added new maps, skins, stability, and almost everything that made Among Us so fun. The developers were ready to give up on the first game and just make a sequel, but through an incredible stroke of good luck, it was found by major streamers which helped explode this game into what it is today. Among Us peaked at over 440,000 concurrent players and now averages 300,000 daily players. A lot of people are saying that this game killed Fall Guys, simply because the barrier to entry is a lot easier, it's a lot cheaper, you can get it for like $10 on Steam or for free on iOS. But the point I'm trying to make here is that Among Us is the perfect example of what Fall Guys should have been on release. A buggy, light on maps and features game that over time got new updates and game modes to attract a healthy player base and ultimately peak when the game is at its most complete. The biggest difference between these two games is that Fall Guys sought this attention from the mainstream. They sent beta keys to big streamers and enabled drops similar to what Riot did with Valorant. This information might change some people's opinions on feeling sorry for Mediatonic, but ultimately the biggest mistake that they made was just not being prepared for such a massive influx of people. Fall Guys lacked stability and meaningful content to keep up with how many people were playing their game. Kind of reminds you of another game, doesn't it? To wrap things up, I feel like Fall Guys peaked extremely early in its life. Mediatonic brought massive attention to themselves by going to popular streamers and influencers with a fresh new take on the Battle Royale genre. But they ultimately weren't ready for how big this game was going to be, either because they really didn't expect this game to blow up the way it did, or they're just straight up incompetent. Either way, it's now up to Mediatonic to stop this bleeding and salvage whatever player base they have left before they eventually move on to greener, more suspicious pastures.